In the headlines of this hour on VTV News, Vietnam's government focuses on strengthening legal framework for economic development. Later on, Vietnamese rice gains popularity in Japan. And in our world news, US and Russia agree on immediate ceasefire for energy facility in Ukraine conflict.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is currently 3 p.m. local time and you're tuning into 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Dylan Lei with the latest updates. Now, at a meeting on Wednesday with the Quang Ninh Provincial Party Committee about the Politburo's inspection team draft report, State President Lương Cường commended the province's achievements in implementing major policies. He noted their effective use of innovative growth methods and clear quarterly development plans with specific targets for each unit and agency. While the province has set an ambitious 14% growth target this year, the state president warned against complacency, stressing the importance of efficient restructuring at both provincial and local levels, while also ensuring seamless transition and service provision. Additionally, he emphasized the need for thorough preparation for personnel and documentation for upcoming party congresses to ensure a democratic, objective, and transparent process. At a special session on legal reform on Wednesday, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính led discussions on 6 key pieces of legislation, including amendments to the Atomic Energy Law, the Law on Science, Technology and Innovation, the Law on Energy Efficiency, the Water Supply and Drainage Law, the Urban Management and Development Law, and proposals for revisions to the Enterprise Law. During the meeting, the Prime Minister stressed that all proposed legal changes must meet the 6 clarifications criteria. What provisions are being inherited or omitted, and why? What provisions are being amended, and why? What new elements are being introduced? How much administrative complexity can be reduced? Which responsibilities will be decentralized or delegated? And or for any remaining points of disagreement, which level of government should resolve them? He emphasized the need for a streamlined legal framework to unlock the nation's production potential and mobilize resources, urging leaders at all levels to advance these reforms for Vietnam's socio-economic growth. With nearly 1 million businesses and around 5 million sole trader businesses, the private sector currently contributes about 51% of GDP and more than 30% of the national budget. At the same time, it creates over 40 million jobs, accounting for more than 82% of the economy's workforce. These figures speak for themselves and show that the private economy needs to be treated equally and effectively.
With over 30 years of involvement in the construction sector and becoming an investor in several key transportation projects, this entity states that the 7 solutions related to institutional improvement and resource sharing across economic sectors, proposed by the party general secretary, are creating new momentum for this business group.
The private sector economy is developing, so there needs to be clear guidance from the party and the state while simultaneously providing balanced, appropriate, and fair support to the private sector.
A key issue raised by the party general secretary recently is improving the guarantee of property rights, ownership rights, business freedom, and contract enforcement for private enterprises.
Our company's desire for expedited approval is understandable, especially considering the importance of timely production for business growth. Speeding up the approval process to just 1 month, instead of the usual 3 to 6 months, could significantly benefit us to start operations sooner and gain a competitive edge.
The private sector helps expand production, trade, and services. It plays a crucial role in improving labor productivity and enhancing national competitiveness. The strong growth of many Vietnamese private enterprises has allowed them to dominate the domestic market and establish their brands on the international stage.
Certainly, with a policy from the party and state, especially from the party general secretary, the private economy will gain more confidence, aspirations, and determination to continue contributing to the nation's development.
The party general secretary also emphasized that the state needs to focus on stabilizing the macroeconomy and improving the institutional framework. The goal is to truly manage the economy based on market principles and use market tools to regulate the economy. In particular, it is crucial to closely monitor monopolistic practices and policy manipulation to ensure private enterprises have equal development opportunities.
For the first time, Vietnam has ranked among the top 20 countries with the fastest mobile internet speeds in the world, according to the Ministry of Science and Technology. In February, Vietnam's mobile internet speed reached 144.50 megabytes per second, ranking 19th out of 103 countries, an improvement of 18 positions compared to December of last year. 3 telecommunications companies, including Viettel, VNPT, and Mobifone, are expected to deploy at least 20,000 5G BTS stations each this year to accelerate the rollout of 5G networks. The growth of mobile broadband infrastructure is one of the key foundations for Vietnam to make breakthroughs in science, technology, innovation, and national digital transformation. Vietnamese agricultural exports, particularly coffee and pepper, are seeing substantial price increases. The General Department of Customs reports that in the first 2 months of the year, Vietnam exported nearly 310,000 tons of coffee, generating $1.72 billion. Despite lower export volume, the value rose by over 37% compared to last year, with average prices jumping 76%. Pepper exports also saw a sharp 68% rise in price, reaching over $6,700 per ton. In total, over 27,000 tons of pepper were shipped, generating more than $184 million in revenue, a 48% increase from the same period last year. Vietnamese rice is becoming increasingly popular in Japan. Consumers appreciate its quality, which closely matches Japanese rice but comes at a lower price. With domestic rice prices remaining high, demand for cheaper imported alternatives is rising. As a result, Vietnamese rice has made a strong impression on the Japanese market.
Bags of Vietnamese rice are gaining traction on supermarket shelves across Japan. In Tokyo, a 5 kilograms bag of Vietnam-grown Japonica rice is priced at around 3,200 yen, approximately $22 before tax, giving it a competitive edge against Japanese rice, which costs around 4,000 yen, $28 for the same quantity.
Japan is a highly selective market, but with over 30 years of experience in rice imports, I believe Vietnamese rice has great potential here. We will work with producers to promote it to ensure Japanese consumers become more familiar with Vietnamese rice.
Japonica rice, the staple variety in Japan, is characterized by its short, round grains. Vietnamese Japonica rice mirrors both the appearance and taste of domestic Japanese rice. In 2024, Vietnam's second shipment to Japan reached 6,000 tons, 60 times higher than previous levels. In March, a third Vietnamese rice brand will debut in Japan, joining ST25 and Japonica.
Importing rice into Japan is a complex process. However, we were able to support Vietnamese businesses in completing this process within just 6 months.
According to Japan's Ministry of Agriculture, private sector rice imports surged from 368 tons in fiscal year 2023 to 991 tons by the end of January 2025. Private businesses plan to import over 20,000 tons of out-of-quota rice in 2025.
The Red River Delta and other parts of northern Vietnam offer significant potential for expanding potato cultivation to serve both fresh markets and processing needs. However, this potential remains largely untapped as many farmers hesitate to enter the industry. Strengthening public-private partnerships, or PPP, between businesses, farmers, and agricultural authorities could be a promising new direction for this crop.
Instead of negotiating with traders in the fields, harvested potatoes are now neatly packed and sent directly to processing plants. Before 2008, factories primarily relied on imports, but today, 1/3 of the supply comes from domestic sources.
Our goal is to source 100% of our potatoes domestically while increasing their value and expanding exports worldwide.
Vietnam's National Agricultural Extension System plays a crucial role in this partnership. The program compiles sustainable potato farming techniques into practical manuals and distributes them to local farmers to help expand the model.
These solutions are quickly disseminated through our extension network. Today, we have invited regional extension leaders to bring these technologies back to their farmers for future crops.
Building on this success, the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment is launching the Food Innovation Network to promote PPP partnerships. Technology and innovation will be at the core, helping Vietnamese fruits and vegetables meet export standards and adapt to climate change.
To achieve rapid growth with limited land, labor, and resources, innovation is crucial.
Vietnam has also established 8 PPP working groups focused on key agricultural products. These collaborations aim to attract investment, implement new technologies, and build sustainable agricultural value chains.
Before we move on, let's have a look at the exchange rate between the Vietnam Dong and some world currencies in today's market. Coming up next on VTV News. Measles-like outbreak sparks urgent response in Quảng Nam province. And later on, filmmakers recreate historic Cu Chi tunnel battles. Welcome back to VTV News Live. Now on to other important updates. A leftover war bomb was safely detonated in Quảng Trị province. Military engineers discovered an Mk36 magnetic mine weighing 80 kilograms in La Lay village, Angor commune, Đắk Rông district. Due to its instability, on-site destruction through electronic remote detonation was required. Quảng Trị military engineering forces established a safety perimeter, evacuated local residents, and neutralized the bomb within 2 hours. That is the 7th bomb discovered in the area near the La Lay International Border Gate in the past 3 years. Several exemplary young soldiers from the Vietnam Border Defense Force were honored at a ceremony in Ho Chi Minh City. In 2024, these young heroes took the lead in combating drug trafficking and organized crime, successfully dismantling 119 criminal operations and seizing over 1,000 illegal activities. Their efforts also extended to border patrols, disaster relief, and search and rescue operations. Hundreds of collective and individuals awards were presented to members of the force, with 10 outstanding young individuals named as role models for their dedication to safeguarding Vietnam's territorial integrity. An outbreak of a measles-like rash fever is spreading rapidly in Nam Trà My district, Quảng Nam province. Among hundreds of cases reported, alarming reports confirm that 5 children have died, including 3 with clinical symptoms of the disease. Hundreds of others have been hospitalized for monitoring and treatment.
Tra Nam commune has recorded 108 suspected cases, with several patients requiring transfer to district-level hospitals for intensive care. Thanks to timely intervention, 59 children have recovered, while the rest remain under treatment.
Upon surveying each household, we encourage families to take sick children to medical facilities. Local officials are helping to transport patients in need of assistance.
Health authorities have linked the outbreak to a vaccination gap, as many children in remote areas have not received full immunization against measles. The situation is worsened by poor living conditions and traditional practices among highland ethnic communities.
The Provincial Disease Control Center has deployed rapid response teams to affected areas, preparing beds, medicine, and medical supplies to handle the rising number of cases.
As of March 10, 2025, Quảng Nam health authorities have reported 577 suspected cases of measles-like rash fever, with 80 confirmed measles cases. Nearly 60% of those infected had not received vaccinations. Officials note that some families are choosing traditional remedies and rituals over medical care, which has worsened the outbreak. In response, health authorities are intensifying vaccination campaigns, boosting public awareness, and delivering nutritional support and care to affected children.
As the Central Highlands enters the dry season, localities are actively implementing measures to manage irrigation systems, ensuring a stable supply of water for agriculture and domestic use. Authorities also work closely with farmers and residents to promote water conservation through practical solutions.
To secure water for his 5-hectare macadamia farm, this man invested in a 220-meter deep well and a 500 cubic meter reservoir while installing an efficient irrigation system to maximize water use.
I regulate the water supply based on the tree's flowering and fruiting stages, which also helps reduce labor. By controlling both water usage and labor, I can significantly cut costs.
The District People's Committee has advised residents to conserve water and transition to crops better suited for areas with limited water access, as supply cannot be guaranteed in 2025.
Many Central Highlands localities proactively address drought by prioritizing water for domestic use, livestock, and high-value crops. Authorities are also conducting inspections and urging investors to accelerate the repair and upgrade of irrigation systems. Appropriate measures are being implemented for existing irrigation projects to maximize water storage capacity.
Water is being stored by closing regulating gates, constructing high dams to prevent overflow, and building temporary dams on streams to direct water for production. Additionally, efforts are being made to maintain and repair mechanical systems, key operational equipment, and canal management infrastructure.
Many localities are actively dredging canals, clearing river and stream flows, and maintaining intrafield canal systems to ensure adequate irrigation and drainage for this year's dry season.
Vietnam's airports, seaports, and border gates will implement biometric technology and VNeID by year-end, following a directive from the Prime Minister. This initiative aims to streamline administrative procedures and transform government services from a request-based to a service-providing approach. The government plans to simplify more than 320 administrative procedures through the digitization of personal data on electronic ID accounts, with completion expected in the second quarter of 2025. Local authorities are also expected to digitize household registration data and explore ways to reuse this data to simplify procedures. Nestled in the Mộc Châu Highlands, Hang Tao village has become very popular for its unique 3 no's: no electricity, no mobile signal, and no Wi-Fi. Despite lacking these modern conveniences, the village has preserved the traditional lifestyle and cultural heritage of the local Hmong people. Through the support of local authorities and the collective effort of villagers, Hang Tao has emerged as a model for community-based tourism in the highlands.
Located in Ta So Hamlet, Chiang Hat Commune, Mộc Châu Town, Sơn La Province, Hang Tao is a farming village of the Hmong ethnic people. The village has recently drawn attention for maintaining its simple way of life and authentic cultural traditions.
I can truly feel the essence of Hmong culture here. If the goal is to develop tourism while preserving the cultural identity of the Hmong people, this seems to be the best approach.
Hang Tao lies in a valley surrounded by mountains and is home to over 20 Hmong households. The village has seen steady growth in tourism since 2020, when Mộc Châu authorities launched their plan to develop Ta So as a community-based tourism destination.
Developing community-based tourism here benefits the villagers in many ways. First, it allows them to maintain and improve their agricultural practices to meet the needs of tourists. Second, it helps preserve and promote their unique cultural identity while creating a new source of income.
The success of community-based tourism in Hang Tao reflects local authorities' strategic approach to preserving cultural heritage while promoting sustainable economic growth.
The film Tunnels, Sun in the Dark is set to premiere nationwide on April the 4th. For the first time, the resilience and daily lives of guerrilla fighters in the Cu Chi tunnels have been vividly recreated on screen. The filmmakers' innovative approach has resulted in a compelling visual journey, transporting audiences back to Vietnam's defining moments in history.
To mark the 50th anniversary of South Vietnam's liberation and national reunification, Tunnels, Sun in the Dark takes viewers deep into the Cu Chi tunnels during the Vietnam War's most intense period. In these underground passages, soldiers and militia created an impenetrable fortress. However, filming in such confined spaces posed major challenges.
I was extremely anxious. How could we work in such a cramped environment? There was barely any space for lighting equipment or camera movement.
After much deliberation, the team devised a solution: reconstruct the tunnels on a film set. This ensured smooth production while preserving the historical site.
Fortunately, we received guidance from veterans who had lived and fought in the tunnels. The Cu Chi residents dug these tunnels by hand, so we aim to keep the set design as raw and functional as possible.
Another major historical project is also in the works: Red Rain, the most ambitious war film by the People's Army Cinema in 2 decades. The movie reenacts the 81-day battle to defend Quang Tri Citadel, with filming taking place on a massive 40-hectare set beside the Thác Hàn River.
As a war film based on real events, Red Rain requires precision. We conducted thorough research and consulted war veterans.
To attract younger audiences, the film features well-known social media influencers.
I hope viewers approach the film with optimism and appreciation for history. It's important to understand our past, honor our ancestors, and contribute to our country's future.
Through innovative storytelling, historical cinema continues to evolve, making the past more accessible, engaging, and emotionally resonant for new generations.
Coming up next in our world news. US and Russia agree on immediate ceasefire for energy facility in Ukraine conflict. Later on, protests erupt worldwide in solidarity with Gaza following Israeli strikes. Moving over to our world news, US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a detailed phone call Tuesday discussing international issues, particularly the Ukraine conflict. Trump called the conversation very good and productive.
According to a White House statement, both leaders agreed that the conflict in Ukraine should be resolved through a lasting peace. They supported initiating the peace process with a ceasefire targeting energy infrastructure in Ukraine, followed by technical negotiations on implementing the ceasefire in the Black Sea. They also emphasized the need to improve U.S.-Russia relations. The Kremlin reported that President Putin reaffirmed Russia's commitment to a peaceful resolution and expressed willingness to work with the U.S. toward a comprehensive and lasting solution. This includes addressing the root causes of the crisis and safeguarding Russia's legitimate security interests. President Putin emphasized that stopping foreign military aid and intelligence support to Kyiv is essential for de-escalating the conflict. Russia also agreed to a 30-day ceasefire on energy infrastructure in both Russia and Ukraine. The White House announced that diplomatic talks between the U.S. and Russia will take place on March 23rd in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Protesters around the world took to the streets after Israeli airstrikes hit Gaza, killing more than 400 people and injuring over 1,000 on Tuesday. A few hundred protesters gathered in New York's Times Square and chanted in solidarity with Gaza. Meanwhile, Jordanians also took to the streets of Amman to condemn Israeli aggression. Right in Israel, thousands of people rallied at Habima Square in Tel Aviv to protest the country's attacks on the Gaza Strip. The United Nations and world leaders have called for an immediate end to hostilities and the resumption of dialogue. Hohhot, the capital of North China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, has promised cash rewards in its latest effort to boost birth rates. The city will offer a one-time subsidy of about 10,000 yuan or $1,400 for couples having their first child. For a second child, parents will receive 10,000 yuan annually until the child turns 5. For third and subsequent children, the annual subsidy extends until the child reaches age 10. Earlier this month, Chinese Premier Li Qiang announced nationwide childcare subsidies and free preschool education to encourage higher birth rates. In the U.S., the Arizona Supreme Court has created a pair of AI-generated avatars to deliver news about rulings and important judicial opinions. This initiative is part of the court's latest efforts to make legal information more accessible to the public. More to follow.
The Arizona Supreme Court recently introduced Victoria and Daniel, marking what is believed to be a novel use of artificial intelligence by a state court system.
Hey there, I'm Daniel, one of the Arizona Supreme Court's new AI reporters.
Hi there, I'm Victoria, one of the Arizona Supreme Court's new AI reporters.
Unlike other AI chatbots that summarize information from online sources given certain prompts, the justices and the court's public information team are still in the driver's seat.
Our public information officer can take a script from our news release and simply take maybe 20 minutes to feed it into the avatar. So it can go out very quickly. You don't have to hunt someone down to take a video. So that's why we ended up landing on the avatars.
Meanwhile, some members of the public are curious to see how this new way of communicating with the public can help maintain and boost confidence in the judicial system.
So I thought it was a really good summary, actually. I think it was like it would be a good summary for a layperson.
I think that AI can absolutely make legal information more accessible, but the extent to which audiences will engage with these videos depends heavily on their execution.
While the AI avatars show promise as legal reporters, experts question whether this computer-generated delivery can effectively engage a wider audience.
Up next, let's have a look at the weather forecast. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel or download a mobile app VTV Go for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.